Hi friends, hope you're whelmed. My name's Jess, and once again, we're playing Ranch of Rivershine, an early access horse ranching game from Cozy Bee Games. I have over 70 hours of gameplay logged so far. I took a break before the newest update was released, but figured it would be best to get this video out before the game leaves early access later this year. This video is definitely more focused on tips and tricks for beginners, but once the game's been fully released and prices for in-game items are finalized, I'd like to do a more in-depth pricing and location guide for things like crops and forageables, including the medicinal ones. At this point, it's likely the mechanics are set in stone, so new players can jump on board without worrying about huge changes to their experience. There is one tip that feels a little too good to be true and might be patched out later, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I won't be showing off the free tack or dye recipe locations. I think it's kind of fun finding them as you play. If you have any tips I didn't cover, feel free to share them in the comments section so other players can share the wealth. Tip number 1 is more of a statement than a secret, but when you're starting out, the very first thing you should do is personalize your settings. These are my current ones, and I think it's easy but important to personalize how you want your experience to be, especially things like day length, weather, and the big one, difficulty settings. It makes a huge difference. Rivershine has 2 difficulty settings, normal and story. You have 3 individual save slots, but you can also switch between the 2 modes in your save file. Just head to the settings menu to make the change while playing. Normal focuses on the inherent grind, challenging players by requiring them to compete and place first in races to progress. Story mode, on the other hand, has no limitations and progress isn't locked behind the racing system. If you've done your best or you don't want to compete at all, make sure to visit Madeline after a new racing quest drops. She'll give you the reward as if you have placed first, and the game will unfold from there. In line with that, it's important to note the point of Rivershine is whatever you want it to be. There's no right way to play, no real-life leaderboard, no timers, just a chill, grindy game that lets you go as fast or as slow as you want to. Now that you've got your settings squared away, tip number 2 is about finding your gameplay style, something I wish I'd known when I started. This would have saved me a lot of in-game cash if I'd taken a more structured approach. So hear me out. Rivershine has a loose storyline that focuses on you moving to town to become its racing champion, putting it back on the map and drawing tourists back to the area. But if you're not really into racing, trust me, there's still lots to love. Rivershine's flexibility means there are plenty of other ways to make money, including selling forageables and crops, raising and training horses to sell them, and now, with the vet update, you can even become a horse rescue. Take in sick wild horses, nurse them back to health, and sell them to their forever home to keep the ranch afloat. I also like to make sure they're tame and trained up when I do this. It makes the process a little more fun. Whatever you decide to focus on, Rivershine's cast of NPCs will help you reach your goal. If you want to upgrade your stable, talk to Liam. If you want that competitive edge in races, visit River to unlock and upgrade your specialty arenas. If a horse is sick or you want to stock up on remedies and recipes just in case, Amelia is your go-to. Every single one of the NPCs is selling something you'll want eventually. In this particular save, I don't really care about the way my human character looks, so I rarely visit the boutique, and I'm neutral about styling my horses and dyeing their manes and tails, so Orion is a character I only see when he visits the market in town. A third really basic but easy to overlook tip is something I realized recently while mashing random buttons. You can play in first or third person mode. The game's default is third person, but if you zoom all the way in with the scroll wheel, check it out. You can easily toggle between both for each experience, though I prefer to use third person and keep the camera locked. It's easier for me to play that way, and accessibility is one of Rivershine's biggest perks. However, using the free camera means it looks way cooler when you play, so it's really up to you. I know, hearing about game mechanics can get boring, but hold your horses. Tip number 4 is short. If you get lost or struggle with navigation, press M to open the map. If you double-click a highlighted person, location, or object, an arrow will guide you there as many times as you need. I actually prefer to keep this enabled, especially when I'm chasing wild horses, as sometimes they get stuck, so I'll double back and focus on another one, wait for the horse I was originally chasing to return to the herd, and try again. Sometimes they end up in weird areas though, so I like to keep that arrow either locked on the horse or the pen. Tip number 5 goes hand in hand with map navigation. Press the F key, you'll open player information. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but just know that your inventory is unlimited, you can keep track of or hide quests, and the other cool feature is the ability to take notes. You can write down whatever you need, and I find it's especially helpful if you have multiple pregnant horses to keep track of the due dates. Or if you're tending a variety of crops, this allows you to keep track of the growth cycle, especially if you use different fertilizers to enhance them. I wish this was something more cozy games implemented. Finally, tip number 6 is about the horses. When you first start out, really take your time picking your horse, as your first trip to the auction house offers an unlimited selection, while subsequent trips have a finite amount of options. In addition to stats and potential, keep an eye on their traits. I only realized how important this was a few real-life weeks and several save files deep, so I get that it's easy to overlook. You'll be partnered with your first horse for quite a while before you can expand your stable, and it's important to balance their existing stats with their potential. That is, the extent to which you can increase their stats. Once their potential hits 0, in most cases you won't be able to train them further, and they're stuck with the stats they have until you can increase potential, which we'll get into just a bit later. But this whole cycle is why it's so important to also factor in their personality. Personally, my favorite trait is clever. Horses with that trait gain 1 potential point overnight, even if and when their potential is depleted. If you don't ride them for 10 days, boom, there's an extra 10% of potential to continue training them. Some other favorites are Superstar, you'll earn bonus money per competition, and Always Fertile, which makes it easy to continue the lineage of your favorite horses. Speaking of horse lineage, tip number 7 is for when you finally have foals on your ranch. Don't neglect to bottle feed them and train them in the round pen on your ranch, because in addition to skilling them up early, it increases their bond and trust with you. While yes, training them takes a little patience and is the perfect time to send that text you've been working on, it's worth it to shape them into the sort of horse you want, and you'll know early on whether you want to keep them or sell them for profit. At one point, I had multiple foals on the ranch and way too many adults. I figured it would be fine to leave the filly with the highest stats untrained while I took care of everyone else, especially because I was planning on keeping her but selling some of the others. When she grew up, however, her trust in me was almost non-existent, which required multiple trips to the coast to use the trust arena and build up our bond. Tip number 8 is also on the topic of foals. Their appearance, stats, and personality are all randomized and based on their parents. The game does keep track of genealogy with a short family tree. You won't get to pick and choose how your foal turns out, but the surprise is always nice. Take these two for example. These brothers share the same parents, but only share mild similarities and have a different combination of traits. While Sugar Cube here was born with higher stats than Jingle, Jingle has an overall better combination of traits, which will allow him to be trained more extensively later. If I could only keep one, it would be Jingle. Tip 9, and the last thing about foals and wild horses, unlike the selection at the auction house, both wild horses and foals come with 100% potential. The only drawback is you can't see their traits until you interact with them in their stall for the first time. Still, that makes wild horses ideal for competing, as you can train them for longer and raise their stats higher. If you want more advanced wild horses, you'll have to purchase pen upgrades for each individual biome, and even then, you only have a chance of getting a horse with a higher skill level. That's why a lot of players love catching each member of a herd and choosing the one with the best stats. Tip number 10. If you're ready to sell your horse, you can do so at the auction house, but I recommend waiting until you've placed in at least a few races or used up at least half of their potential. That, in addition to their coat color, pattern, and traits, will influence how much money you can get for them, making it easier to afford ranch upgrades, cosmetics like tack for the horses you're keeping, or outfits for your rider. I've also noticed that when I've done all of these things, and I keep the horse for a few in-game seasons, their value skyrockets at the auction house. Generally, full-grown adults sell for more than yearlings. Our 11th tip probably should have come up sooner, but if vanished potential is the only reason you're thinking of parting with your starter horse, don't even worry about it. There are a few ways to get more. The first is obviously having a horse with the clever trait. As long as you don't mind not riding them, they'll slowly gain their potential back. The easiest way is riding through town and competing. See those shimmers on the ground? If you ride through them, they'll randomly reward you with different things: energy, potential, or money. Probably the most effective way, though, is through the statues scattered around the game. Each time you place in a specific biome's competition, you'll earn favor with that biome's horse statue, and when it hits 100%, the statue will grant you a small stat boost for their favored skill. That probably sounds a little confusing, so let me clear things up. You can see on the screen that I have multiple statue bars full. We're in the meadow right now, where Gold Charm's statue is. I brought Lucky Penny because I want to raise her speed, and voila! Raised stats means more longevity in races. And our last tip is the only one I can see changing in the full release because it's kind of cheaty. Everything is expensive, and if you're not big into racing, there are other options to make money. You can invest in a horse and train them, only to sell them for a profit, spend your days harvesting forageables, or you can grow crops, a surefire way to make a lot of money in a little time. While the game tells you all about earning bonuses through fertilizers, it doesn't tell you this. Right now, the game tells you that certain crops grow during certain seasons, but the reality is far less restrictive. As you can see from my screen, we're at the beginning of winter, and I have some pumpkin seeds, a fall crop that can be found in the Rocky Mountain. But if I plant it now and add multiple swift fertilizers, instant pumpkins. This works with every other treat in the game. And for the record, watermelon, which you can find in Azure Coast, is the most expensive, so it will net you the highest sale price. It also makes the best snack for your horse, which will give them more energy between training sessions or competitions. Those are my 12 tips for Ranch of Rivershine, and I'm sure there are quite a few things I don't know about this game. If you made it this far, thanks so much, and thanks for your patience. I've been teaching myself to use new editing software, so it took a while to get this video up. If you've been playing Rivershine for a while, don't forget to add your wisdom down in the comments and let me know. Is there an even easier method to regain potential? What's your favorite part of Rivershine? What are you most excited for in the full release? I gotta say, I'm hyped for festivals. If this video was helpful, consider subscribing and leaving a like, and I'll see you next time.